What is up? Welcome back to Black and White Show. I'm Caroline.
I'm Terrance Ganaway.
And we are, of course, at Three Nations Brewing in Farmers Branch. And we have playoff baseball on, and there are some loyal followers here, and so we're excited for another Tuesday night.
I think that this place have treated us a million times better than we
Yeah.
deserve, and we don't give them enough credit. But yeah, we want y'all to come out and enjoy some of this craft beer with us, and it's not on the house, it's on us.
Yeah.
But
Put it on our tab.
yeah. Anyways, welcome back. This is week 5 of the show and week 8 of college football. And we got a lot of things happening around the country. We're a couple weeks away from the first bowl preview, and I mean not bowl, but playoff preview
Right.
with ESPN. So really interested to see how that all works out. But
Yeah.
I think we have some takes tonight.
Yeah, for sure. I think week 7 was a huge week of losses and what that means for playoff implications. So we just kind of wanted to break down each conference for you and go through who the leaders are right now, and if the playoffs were next week, who would be in and who would probably be out with the losses suffered this past week.
Yeah.
So 4 top 10 teams lost last week. 5 unbeaten teams lost. I think Clemson, most notable because they were the highest ranked. That really shakes up the ACC and allows for North Carolina State and Miami to really take that center stage right now. But like we were talking about it earlier, Clemson's loss is probably the least magnitude of the loss.
Least detrimental
Right.
to the season. Because their resume going into that game, they went to beat Auburn. They
beat
played
Louisville.
Louisville and Lamar Jackson, who kind of have skidded since that game, and then they went up to beat Virginia Tech and Josh Jackson, who's playing phenomenal football right now as well. So Clemson is obviously still in the running. They're in the Atlantic Division. And when you think about the Coastal Division, you have Miami, Virginia, and Virginia Tech all playing really good football, and they have to play Georgia Tech with that ground attack that they have. So Miami has a big game against Syracuse, who upset Clemson last week. I don't think Syracuse can pull it off again.
Right.
Dino Babers and the Orangemen, they had a fantastic game plan. They got the ball out of the quarterback hands really quick. Didn't allow that defensive line to get momentum and get going. And, you're up in Syracuse, upstate New York in the Dome, and it gets loud in there. Everything is echoing. So, kudos to Dino Babers and that team. They have Miami, who just came off a really good game against Georgia Tech and squeaked out a victory. I like Miami in the Coastal Division because they have a very favorable home schedule. Later in the season, they get Virginia Tech, who's 14th right now. Notre Dame, who's 13th right now, has a big game this weekend as well. In Virginia, who isn't ranked right now, but they're silently playing really, really good football. And they all have them in November. So that's a tough stretch, but Miami gets them at home. So it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out.
You take North Carolina State. They head to Notre Dame this weekend. That will be obviously a huge game, and then they host Clemson, so they have the opportunity to really shine.
Notre Dame is North Carolina State is at Notre Dame next weekend.
Yes.
Yes.
I think so. 2 weeks.
Okay. Notre Dame's playing good ball. The only loss is at home against Georgia, who's a top 5 team in the country, who's playing excellent ball in the SEC East Division, and there's only really 2 teams in the SEC that you can consider a playoff team. I like NC State. They got a tough schedule. Going out. They have to go in. I like Ryan Finley, but I don't. They have to beat Notre Dame, and then they have to play Clemson at the end of the year. I just don't think that they have enough.
They'll make it out unscathed.
No, they don't. But I like Josh Jackson and Virginia Tech to possibly upset Miami and win out. And Virginia Tech only lost to date is against Clemson at home a few weeks ago in a 17-point victory that Clemson had. A lot of things happening in that coastal division.
Yeah.
Some really, really good teams. We'll see how that ends up as the season progresses.
Yes, thanks.
Don't do it.
Sorry.
Bless you. Bless you. So let's go to the Big 12. What we got for the Big 12?
Big 12. I mean, the Big 12, obviously, TCU is a front runner right now because they are undefeated. But there are, those one loss teams in Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, and, West Virginia has 2 losses.
Yeah.
But, it is still wide open. I mean, everything's wide open. Every conference is wide open because so much can happen in the next few weeks. But, I think we still need to watch for Oklahoma State because they can come back and win against, they beat OU and then beat TCU in the championship game. Maybe they make a name for themselves in the playoff run as well.
Yeah, if they can get there, Oklahoma State has to play West Virginia. I can't remember if that game is in Morgantown. I think
it's in Morgantown.
It's in Morgantown, so they have to go win in Morgantown, which Texas Tech proved it's hard to win in the fourth quarter in Morgantown. They have to play Texas. They still have to play OU and Iowa State, who is second in the Big 12, tied with a lot of teams.
So do you think that TCU being undefeated right now, do you think that is the solidified front runner for the Big 12? Or do you think
for sure.
TCU is going to have a loss at the end of regular season?
TCU, I just don't think they go 12 games in the Big 12, 8 games in the Big 12, 9 games in the Big 12, and win all those games.
Yeah.
So I think TCU still plays in the championship game against who I don't know. Let's be honest. Before the season started, it was Oklahoma and Oklahoma State playing in that game, a rematch to Bedlam, which will be perfect for everyone that lives in the state of Oklahoma. But Texas is, TCU is playing really good ball. Yeah. They forced Mason Rudolph and the Cowboys to turn over the ball and make costly mistakes. They used some trickery to beat West Virginia, and then they went up there and handled Kansas State last week. TCU has Kansas this week, so that's their biggest, game that Gary Patterson needs to focus on. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But I think TCU is single-handedly, they're at the top of this league, and I give the number 2 to OSU. I thought Texas Tech was a really, really good team this year. They jumped out on the Mountaineers in Morgantown last week, and they just completely
shut it down.
Yeah, they shut it down. They packed up their equipment. Yeah. They took off their pads.
They were at the end of plane.
At the end of the third quarter, they're like, you know what? We're winning. There's no way they come back and win. Let's go home, man. Yeah. And they took an L back to Lubbock. And so they got a big game against Iowa State, who blanked Kansas last week. So we'll see how that all plays out. But TCU is definitely the front runner for the Big 12.
In the Big 10, we've got Penn State, Michigan, Ohio State, really the front runners. Penn State 6-0. Obviously, they've been taking care of business this season. So, they host Michigan. Huge game this week. That will, I feel like, kind of solidify their spot in the Big 10 as a front runner if they pull off this one.
Penn State, it's going to be hard for them to win. Yeah. They go to Penn State. Michigan goes to Penn State. Yeah. So, in my notes, I have Penn State only has Saquon Barkley, and Michigan does not have a Saquon Barkley. They have some great running backs, and they're evenly distributing the ball.
Totally.
The problem with Michigan isn't their defense. They're playing solid defense. Is that they cannot score points against any other great defensive unit in the Big Ten. And Michigan's defense, probably over the last 3 years, outside of the year that Ohio State won the national championship, probably has the best unit in Big 12 football. So either side of the ball, if you look at a particular unit and you say, I want this unit, and I'm picking a defense and offense, you pick Michigan's defense before you draft any other offense in the Big Ten. Now, JT Barrett and Ohio State Buckeyes are playing some balanced football right now.
Yeah.
They still have a lot to say. The only loss against OU, and JT Barrett has been nearly perfect since then.
Yeah, since the Oklahoma loss, they have outscored opponents 266 to 56 points.
Yeah.
So they've been rocking and rolling for sure.
They've been playing some good football. They got Penn State, Michigan, Michigan State.
Yeah.
A lot of big games, in that West Division of the Big Ten.
Which is, kind of like we were saying with TCU, just the latter portion of their schedule is so tough that it will be very impressive if they come out of that unscathed.
I was listening to Joe Klatt middle of last week, and he was talking about, according to like the Football Power Index or some index that he was reading, TCU has out of the top five, top teams in the Power 5, TCU has like the third easiest road out to be able to win. And I don't know what type of data or algorithm they're using to predict that or be able to make that claim. TCU has a lot of football left to play, much like everyone else in the country. It's going to be hard to go 6-0 in the back half of this schedule, and they cannot overlook Kansas this week because that's not going to help them at all.
Well, jumping on over to the Pac-12, no more undefeated teams for the Pac-12. Mm-hmm. They have really kind of suffered some major losses, with Washington losing to unranked Arizona State, Washington State stunned by Cal this week, and then 2 weeks ago USC lost to Washington State. So I think USC, they had to stop them this week. But ever since their loss, I feel like people have really just kind of downplayed them. They do still have enough notable games to get themselves back up in the rankings.
Yep.
But I don't think it's ever going to be anything significant enough to get them into the playoffs.
Who do they have this week?
I don't know.
Yeah, so that's number one. And that South Division of the Pac-12 doesn't look very strong. SC probably biggest game outside of this week was against Washington State, and they lost that. That North Division is pretty good. Stanford has 2 losses, but they're playing really good ball right now with Bryce Love at running back. Back-to-back games against UW, Washington, and then Washington State, starting out their November run. They're going to have to be able to win both of those games to have an opportunity to play in the Pac-12 championship, most likely against a USC team. I do not think USC will win out, and obviously if they don't win out, the Pac-12 most likely will not submit a playoff team this year. Washington did it last year. It's hard because no one's really watching their games. Their games are at midnight, and so you really don't get to watch those quality games. And it's going to be tough unless something happens in other conferences where you can, be able to squeak Washington State or Washington in there. It's going to be tough, and they both have to go through Stanford to finish with the 1 loss.
Mm-hmm. And in the SEC, obviously Alabama, front runner.
2 teams.
Yes, but there are 2 teams. The other one being Georgia, whose loss is to Notre Dame, and that loss, only becomes more credible with how well Notre Dame's performing.
So Georgia's undefeated, but Notre Dame's only losses to Georgia, 20-19.
That's right.
Yeah. And also a fact check: Clemson beat Virginia Tech 31-17, not by a 17-point victory. Virginia Tech scored 17.
Did you remember that in your head?
Yeah, I was going to circle it, but I didn't want you to address it because. But anyways, Alabama is the only team in the West, and Georgia's the only team in the East, and there's no one else. Auburn had a chance to compete with their only loss against Clemson, and they go up there, they jump out. They haven't won a game in Baton Rouge since 1999.
Yeah.
And that's still the case.
Yeah.
After jumping out 17-0 against LSU, we thought LSU was going to be on our pass the stick segment again this week. They are, but on the opposite side of the segment. Alabama and Georgia, it's their divisions to lose. Keep playing ball. They'll face each other most likely in a big SEC game. Nick Saban has been almost perfect against Georgia in those big games. Georgia then had Mark Richt, who's down in Miami winning games now. Kirby Smart is coaching his tail off in his second year there. Georgia looks like a really, really good team, and they got an impressive resume to date. So there's really no one else to talk about in the SEC.
Nope. And side notes from not in a conference, Notre Dame. I mean, we touch on them with everyone that they're playing in the Power 5 conference, but, they have the crazy second half of their schedule. And if they can win out, then they are for sure putting themselves right up there in a playoff spot.
Yeah. You look at Notre Dame today, they're 5-1. 4 out of their next 6 games are against top 25 opponents. They play SC, Southern Cal at home. They play NC State at home. And then they have Miami and Stanford. So they have some big games. And if they can stay healthy, Notre Dame may have an opportunity to have an outside chance.
Totally.
With their resume, very impressive resume.
Their body of work as the playoff committee.
Yeah, the body of work. But probably the best 2-loss team with the most impressive losses will probably be West Virginia, losing to Virginia Tech, who only has 1 loss against Clemson, and then losing to TCU, who's an undefeated team, ranked number 4 in the country right now. So,
but a 2-loss team is never going to get to the playoffs.
Yeah, it's going to be hard because I don't think there'll be multiple 2-loss teams. No. But it is college football, and that's why we live for Saturdays.
Yep.
And Syracuse live for the last Friday.
Yeah.
So, them and Cal.
Friday Night Lights, man.
Yeah.
It was Friday the 13th, too.
It was. They said it was like some kind of weird word, like the fear of Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
It's like some kind of it's a long word. It's like supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. I'll
Kill that one.
I'll text it to you later.
All right. Well, hype or no hype this week, I am going to start it off with Sam Ehlinger from Texas because I think he has done a phenomenal job at competing against the notable quarterbacks. Oh my gosh, the Yankees just tied it. Sorry. I'm super distracted by playoff baseball right now.
Yeah. Hey,
but
Doug,
that's what's the best part about coming here is you could hear us and watch playoff baseball.
Yeah. Enjoy good beer.
Absolutely. Anyway, so the fact that Sam Ehlinger, a freshman, can keep up with Sam Darnold at USC and Baker Mayfield this past week, I believe in all the hype behind him. Tom Herman has said he's seen all he's need to see in his 2 quarterbacks, and that Sam Ehlinger is his guy.
Probably is. He is the best thing for Texas.
Totally.
But who has he beat?
Well, I'm saying he's the right guy for Texas.
Okay, hype or no hype? I'm not buying any hype that he has.
If he wouldn't have
You
been
selling wolf
taken out
tickets.
of the game, if he wouldn't have been taken out of the game, Texas would have won.
You're selling wolf tickets.
I don't even know what that
means. Shoulda, woulda, coulda. San Jose, he didn't play against Iowa State, which is their second win. And then KSU, he had a great, impressive showing late in the game and won in the game. I like him. He's a gamer, but I'm not going to say buy into his hype. But a player I will buy into his hype is Khalil Tate, guy from Arizona. So, let's just put this in perspective. Over the last, I don't know how many years we had football, but he becomes the first person to have 2 200-yard games back-to-back as a quarterback. He hit Colorado for 327 yards. And then he just hit UCLA, better running quarterback than Josh Rosen, obviously, for 230. He has 39 carries on the year, 643 yards, 16.5 yards per carry. I think it's gonna be hard to say that he's not a baller. He reminds me of.
Okay, I'm looking at their schedule. Who have they beat?
It don't matter who they beat.
Oh, but you could say that against Sam Ellinger?
He hadn't beat anyone though. They
So
at least Arizona
do.
winning those games. Sam Ellinger hasn't beat anyone.
Whatever.
I mean, the guy hasn't won any game other than K-State, which was a great game, and it has them in the second place in the Big 12 as of today, this week. But I mean, Khalil Tate, he was just like Sam Ellinger, he was a backup quarterback 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Comes in and shows flashes of greatness, and next thing you know, he's running on skates and no one can catch him. So I think that wraps up our hype and nose hype section, segment. I'm going Khalil Tate, and I'm never taking Sam Ellinger, at least not today.
He's gonna smoke people in the Big 12 in 2 years.
Okay. Well, there's a lot of freshman phenoms. Garrett Gilbert, he was there at Texas. And they were like, oh, he's going to be the best quarterback ever. And we'll see how that.
Okay, well, we'll watch Khalil Tate as well.
Yeah.
Pass the sticks, y'all. This one hurts me this week.
It does? Why?
But I have to do it. Baylor.
Yeah, Baylor definitely gets past the sticks.
So let me tell you something. We are off to our worst start since Neil Armstrong walked the moon. Do you know what year that was?
I'm going to go with 1969.
You read my notes.
Why can't I just know that? I mean, I'm a fascinating guy. I had the constellation stars on my ceiling.
Did you?
Yeah, I mean, the glow in the dark. It's like I was afraid of the dark when I was young.
There you go.
Yeah, Neil Armstrong is.
It's the homie.
Yeah.
So they are on a 12-game regular season losing streak.
That stings.
That is.
Baylor has been in every game this year, except last game.
Yeah.
In a one-sport game.
And it's like.
No, except Duke and KSU, but they've been two-score games.
Yeah. Not just like total smokeout. It's like.
My thing with Baylor is I've seen 6 different offenses for 6 different games. Defense is spotty. They give up big plays, and then they say we're young. There's a lot of young people. Josh Jackson at Virginia Tech, true freshman. Kellen Mond, A&M, true freshman. A&M was playing like I think more freshmen or more underclassmen than anyone in the SEC, and Sumler's not talking about it. I get it. We're beating a dead horse. Baylor went through whatever last year. Still another if we're good enough to hang in those games, that means we're good enough to win them.
Yeah.
And we're 0-6 for a reason. We haven't been able to win those games. And last week really gave everyone a litmus test of where Baylor is for real. We go out there, we drive 10 out of the 12 first plays of the game runs downhill. What I didn't like, Lovett, he lost control of the ball. He regained the ball, was able to get tackled, keep the ball. Then you have Zach Smith fumble the ball. Fortunately, Ebner's there to scoop it up, touchdown, great first drive. We go 3 and out, we punt the ball, they muff it, we get it back. First play, we're under center, quarterback drops back 10 yards, which creates a hard – it creates more pressure for your offensive tackles to create a pocket because it changes the rush angles for defense end.
Yeah.
And if you're going to do that out of a pro set where you have 2 tight ends in the game, you have to understand that if you have 2 tight ends in the game and one of them is blocking, it's probably man-to-man coverage when you go to this big pro set. There's add-on blitzers. And what happened is a tight end goes to block, and there's an add-on blitzer, and no one picks him up, sack, fumble. So we had, a handful of fumbles. It had an interception. And you just cannot turn the ball over versus an Oklahoma State team with a high-powered offense. They go out there and set records, 747 yards of offense, and they welcome Phil Snow to the Big 12. There's a lot of things to be said about the Big 12 and, how we don't really play defense. It's because we have freak athletes and they spread you from sideline to sideline and they force you to show your hand. And then at the end of the day, you got to make plays on the back end. Defense we didn't, and we gave up some big plays, big runs. And Mason Rudolph and OK State Cowboys, they came out to play. So my My past the six for the week is Auburn. Jumped up on LSU, Jarrett Stidham, and they completely just shut down their offense.
Yeah.
LSU has a great defense. The defense is not the problem at LSU. Never has been, especially with Les Miles there and not with Ed. They just haven't been able to score. And like I said earlier, it's been since 1999 that
Auburn's won. And
Auburn won. Yeah. And it's going to be true until 2019 when they get an opportunity to go back. And it's just you don't handle business. It's college football. Everyone can score. There's not this battle of field position. You have big playability across, the field at every level. 17 points in the first quarter. You scored in the first quarter. What makes you think someone else can't score in the second quarter?
Yeah.
And LSU came back and won. Great game for Ed, and I know they're really excited because they've been playing some horrible football.
Yeah, seriously.
The last couple
they needed
weeks.
That for sure.
Yeah.
Just like Baylor.
I know.
Needs a win. Jumping into our matchups of the week, we got a full schedule for the Big 12, so we will start it off with Oklahoma versus Kansas State. Kansas State started a new quarterback last week, Alex Delton, but their offense really never took flight.
Yeah, it's going to stay grounded this week
Yeah,
as well because they don't throw the ball, which would actually help them against OU secondary, who has been obliterated the last few weeks and in the Big 12. I like Oklahoma in this. I think they get back to just running the ball, and you're going to have to stop the run, K-State. The thing I like about what Bill Snyder is able to do there in Manhattan is he forces teams to make mistakes to win.
Yeah.
So if you go out there and dominate, you're going to beat K-State. But if you go out there and make mistakes, K-State is almost a mistake-free team, and they handle their business. I think Oklahoma wins this game very easily.
Moving over to TCU and Kansas. TCU has struggled against Kansas.
Yeah, they got their number.
They pull out the win, but they struggle against Kansas. Yeah. And there have been multiple years where everyone's texting like, holy crap, Kansas is about to beat TCU. But TCU does always normally pull out the win, and I think that they will obviously do that again this year. I think they've got a different team this year. It's, Kenny Hill is playing so much better.
Mm-hmm.
Still has his flaws, but I think he's playing so much better than last season and the year before.
I think the offensive weapons for TCU has taken a lot of pressure off of Kenny Hill.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to do it all. He knows it. He puts the ball in athletes' hands, and they just go out there and make plays. Kansas is on a 5-game losing streak against TCU, but the last 4 games are all TCU, 27-17, 34-30, 23-17, 24-23. These are, outside of the 2013 game, the last 3 games are a 1-score game.
Yeah.
But TCU hasn't lost to Kansas in the last 20 years, and TCU hasn't won in Fort Worth in 21 years. So I don't think Kansas hasn't won in Fort Worth in the last. TCU obviously winning in Fort Worth.
Yeah.
In the last, so we'll see. Kansas get beat this weekend.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we'll see.
Absolutely.
Another team that I think probably is going to have a tough time, even though West Virginia coming off an emotional game.
Mm-hmm.
Baylor, West Virginia.
Yeah.
I don't like what Phil Snow gave up to Oklahoma State last week with Ottman and Washington, because you got two receivers that are probably a poor man Washington State. Poor man Oklahoma State receiving crew in Sales and White. Greer's playing great football at the quarterback position, but Texas Tech had no answers for him late in the game, and Sills and White scored the last 4 touchdowns. Greer played, threw for 5 touchdowns, 29 unanswered points. I think West Virginia comes in, they run the ball with Jamal Crawford, and it's going to be very hard to stop him and focus on being able to play some coverage on back end against those great receivers.
Yeah.
If Baylor wants to win this, we have been really good the last few years at home. outside of last year when we went on our 6-game losing streak, and obviously a little bit, bleeds over into this year.
Right.
Baylor has to run the ball and protect the ball. If you go out there and you fumble, you give a offense in the Big 12 more opportunities to score, and it's just not going to be a fun day for Baylor.
And you saw some promise last week with Terrance Williams rushing for 95 yards, and then John Lovett rushed for 62. So you see some hope there, some glimmer.
Yeah, if we can stay healthy, we're banged up. If we can stay healthy, I think we'll be pretty good. We'll see what's to come of this, but I have West Virginia
for sure
crashing.
Greer and Sills actually lead the nation in touchdowns in their respective positions. So I mean, that combination right there is not something that we've seen from Baylor that they've handled well. So I don't expect them to handle Greer and Sills any better this week.
Yeah. I think West Virginia crashes Baylor homecoming party.
Ooh.
Lady and Joy, get ready.
Yeah, seriously.
Who else we have?
We've got Oklahoma State and Texas.
For some reason, I was looking at this game on Sunday night, and Texas had a -1 line.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, why would they ever have a -1 line? I guess more people went out there. Yeah, he's no hype. But Ellinger hasn't beat anyone, and I don't foresee him beating Oklahoma State this weekend. I'm going to go with Oklahoma State coming off a very
Texas defense. OU's averaging about 600 yards. Texas kept them to about 500. Mm-hmm. So you never know. Yeah. Texas defense could shine.
Yeah.
They stopped 10 of OU's 15 third down conversions.
I read something today. Say, the thing about statistics is they tell a story, but they don't tell the whole story. And the only statistic that I like, I was talking to a mom last week. She said, if the Gatorade Player of the Year is a statewide or national. I was like, I don't know. I don't get too caught up in Player of the Week because it's so subjective.
Right.
You know what's objective? It's wins and losses.
Right.
So when you go look at it, wins and losses, that's when you can look. All right, okay, this team won 10 games or they lost 10 games. That's not subjective at all.
Well,
but
we'll be texting Saturday when Texas is up on Oklahoma State.
No, Oklahoma State comes out. Mason Rudolph understands that he has a big game coming up against the Oklahoma Sooners, and Texas is in their way, and they need to handle business. Texas got a great defensive front. I don't think their offense is going to score enough points to keep Mason Rudolph and the Cowboys at bay.
That's true. That's true.
Even with your boy Sam Elliott.
All right, Iowa State and Texas Tech. Texas Tech coming off of a very emotional and just ridiculous game that they lost us, but they did. So there we are.
I had them winning. I didn't have them winning, but I wouldn't have been surprised if they had won.
Yeah.
And they were dominating. And they just got on the flight. I don't know if they flew American or United or Southwest. And they took the first flight back. And for some reason, they haven't seen that commercial with Southwest where the coach says, "Hey, do you believe in yourself? I believe in you. I booked all flights leaving after the championship game." And they come back in the locker room throwing their towels because they lost. And there's like Southwest says, "Hey, don't worry, we got your back. You can change your flights." And I guess that's what. So next time Texas Tech, fly Southwest so you can change your flights and not have to be at the airport at 5:30 and not be able to stay for the whole game against West Virginia.
They did not.
Shimmy. Only he had a great start. Texas Tech was rushing the ball well with Stockton, and they just collapsed.
First half they had 252 yards. The second half they had 71 yards.
Yeah, you just can't do that, especially on the road. You got to be able to run the ball and stop the run. They did a great job of bottling up Jamal Crawford. Mm-hmm. But they just couldn't stop Seals and White. And I'm afraid Baylor will probably be the same way against them. Iowa State just came off of a blanked-out victory against Kansas. I like Iowa State. They play with a ton of energy, just like their coach. Right. Texas Tech wins 11.
Yeah, for sure. Moving on to our non-Big 12 matchups of the week. I'm really excited about this. We've got number 2 Penn State at number Actually, I don't know where it is.
No, it's at Penn State.
Okay, so number 19,
Michigan
Michigan
State College, yeah.
at Penn State. So you were talking earlier about how teams in the Big 12 are going to score points. They're going to score big points. Well, over here we might not see many points whatsoever.
No,
and
zero.
I'm super excited to see how Michigan's defense. They're ranked number 1 in total defense, number 1 in pass defense, and number 6 in rush defense. So that defense is super stingy, and if they can contain Saquon Barkley, it's lights out for Penn State.
Like I said in my notes earlier, my notes for this game is Saquon is Penn State. Michigan doesn't have a Saquon.
They don't.
Saquon is not only returning kicks, he leads Penn State in rushing attempts. He leads them in rushing yards. He leads them in receptions, and he leads them in receiving yards. He's even 1 for 1 in passing. So he is their whole team. If you stop him, the game's over. They have no one else.
Yeah.
Michigan's going to bottle him up. Saquon is averaging over 100 yards a game. Rushing, Michigan is only giving up about 85 yards a game rushing.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting because Michigan and Harbaugh has a great defensive front seven.
However, his offense is messy.
Garbage.
And that would be, Penn State's one hope is Michigan doesn't really have an offense.
Yeah.
They're playing Jim O'Korn right now at quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
He was 10 for 20 for 58 yards last week.
How many touchdowns did he throw?
No, that's total on this.
Oh, yeah. Well, listen, Jim Harbaugh doesn't care about throwing the ball.
He doesn't. He cares about containing the ball.
The kicking game will be interesting in here because Penn State may get some opportunities in the red zone or in plus territory. But Tyler Davis is 6 for 13. He's under 50% on the year.
Yeah.
He's 0 for 4 from 30 to 39 yards and 2 for 4 from 40 to 49. Yeah. If it comes down to a kicking game contest, this game may go to overtime 0-0.
Yeah.
And, it's just going to be nasty. You got Higdon, Isaac, and Evans at running back for Michigan. If they can get the ground game going, take a lot of pressure off of John O'Korn. Maybe he throws more than 60 yards this weekend and gets a win. I have Michigan winning this game because Saquon is all that Penn State has. And I just find it hard to
in his past 2 games, he has been contained.
Yeah.
So I think, if you're watching film and seeing how teams are able to contain him, then
Michigan. When I was Adrian Peterson is my favorite running back of all time. And I was in St. Louis and we played him. This is after he came off ACL. And Jeff Fisher comes in the locker room Monday after the game and he says, "Listen, boys." He didn't even say anything. He puts on film. He's like, "This is what we got to do. We got to stop this guy." First play of the game against Minnesota, not Minnesota, but Chicago, he takes it 80 yards. He sheesh. Second play of the game, he takes it 40 yards. 4 plays in the game, he had 200 yards rushing. He's just thinking how are we going to stop Adrian Peterson? That's the exact same thing that you have to do with Penn State. If you want to win that game, you have to stop Saquon Barkley. And if you do not stop him, he will beat your tail.
Yeah.
It is no question about it. He's dynamic in every phase of the football game. And if you lose track of him, if you accidentally kick him a short kick on kickoff, and he'll run it back to the house. If you have a man-to-man coverage with a linebacker in passing game, he may just Barry Sanders the guy and go 80. So you have to keep him contained. You got to know where he is at all time. And I'm sure Harbaugh will have a great idea where he is. Now let's talk about Notre Dame and USC.
Big game.
Big game.
Big game too.
Going up to South Bend and two top 25 teams.
Yeah. Notre Dame currently 9th in the turnover margin. They are 73-10 in advantage of points off of turnovers. So Notre Dame figures out ways how to win ball games. And
Yeah.
Notre Dame's running back Josh Adams ranks second nationally in yards per carry.
Yeah. Probably behind your boy Love at Stanford, huh? Most likely. Or is it Khalil Tate? No, he's not there.
No.
But I'm believing that hype. If Wimbush is healthy, Notre Dame wins this game. Sam Darnold had his Heisman moment last week when he was able to go out and come back and beat Utah. Utah, hey, all the marbles on the line saying, hey, if we want to win, we got to win now. And they went for two, and play call didn't work out. Great defensive stand for USC. I'm going to take Notre Dame to win this game in South Bend.
For sure.
And if Notre Dame can win out, they may have a bid to be in top four and possibly to stamp their first bid into the college football playoff.
So, quick picks on the spot. Top four for playoffs right now. 1.
Alabama.
2.
I'm going to go with Georgia, number 2.
SEC dominance.
And I'm going to go with Penn State, number 3. TCU, number 4. And that's my top 4. Don't at me.
Don't at me.
What about you?
No, I mean, I think I might put Penn State at 2, Georgia at 3. Well, that's just following the AP poll, so that's really lame.
Well, the thing is, the 2 and 3 really doesn't matter because they play each other. So it really doesn't matter.
That's true.
But I think TCU's in there. TCU's going to have to dominate the Big Ten, the Big 12, because if Ohio State only losses to Oklahoma and they go through and beat Penn State, Michigan State, and Michigan. It's going to be hard to not put Ohio State back in. But
that's for the reason that I'm not putting. I keep kicking the table. Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry.
Why I'm not putting them in the top 4 because I don't think they'll make it out without a loss in those 3 games.
Well, we're talking about where they are right now, though.
Yeah.
So
if
college football playoffs were today,
so,
I would go with those 4 teams.
Yeah.
And TCU will have their hands full against Bama. Kenny Hill's going to have to do more than just some trickery like he did against West Virginia. Because TCU is not Kansas. Alabama is not Kansas. But anyways, thank y'all for having us again, and hopefully y'all enjoyed the show. I posted some questions or posted a prompt for people to ask questions. I don't think I got any questions, but feel free to ask those questions. We'd love to answer questions.
Feel free to come to 3 Nations and yell questions at us.
Yeah, and watch.
Watch baseball.
It's October. It's baseball.
Honed in right now on this game. Wow. Top of the night.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
And Yankees came back. And
what if they had a DVR?
I'm sorry. If you DVR the Yankee game over this, then we love you. Please come so we can buy you a beer. And that's it. Thank you for allowing us to do this for our 5th straight week. Yeah. Hopefully the audio is a little bit better. We got some secret sauce there. So no one's going to know that. And that's it I got.
That's it.
That's all you got?
Have a good week.
All right. Take care. Marie.